President Trump promised to pass concealed carry reciprocity, something that gun owners across the nation have been asking about for quite a while.
I will protect the right of self-defense everywhere it is under siege, and I will sign concealed carry reciprocity. Your Second Amendment does not end at the state line.
Would you be open to expanding the national concealed carry to apply to D.C. like it does in other states like Texas?
Yeah. Well, they have it in some states and they feel strongly about it. As you know, I'm in favor of it. People have to protect themselves. I'm a Second Amendment person, very simply. People have to be able to protect themselves.
Today, we're going to talk about concealed carry reciprocity, and more specifically, the current fight in Congress to pass H.R. 38, the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, sponsored by GOA ally Richard Hudson. We'll also talk about how anti-gun police organizations are trying to kill the bill and dictate how citizens like you should be able to exercise their rights. Hi, I'm Ben, and you're watching the Minuteman Moment. Gun Owners of America is fighting for your rights on Capitol Hill and all over the United States. And with our one big beautiful lawsuit against the NFA and its illegal registration of SBRs, SBSs, and silencers and more, we have a real shot at dismantling one of the foundational pillars of gun control in this country. But we can't do it without your help. Please consider becoming a member today at gunowners.org. Okay, now back to the video. Today, the United States features a web of different standards regarding carry. Some are constitutional, but some, like those in Hawaii, are anything but. But soon, that could change. And that's all thanks to H.R. 38, the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. This bill will allow for those who can legally carry a firearm in their home state to carry in other states with their state permit, or if you're from a constitutional carry state, with your driver's license. For gun owners, this is something that's been long overdue. For years, the United States has been a mess of different laws, standards, and requirements for even receiving a permit at all. But that all changed with the landmark case, New York State Rifle Pistol Association v. Bruin, where the Supreme Court acknowledged that the Second Amendment extended outside of the home. This forced anti-gun states like New York, California, Hawaii, and others to begin issuing concealed carry permits to anyone who could legally own a firearm. And in the meantime, in more pro-gun states, the constitutional carry movement gained a ton of traction, with more than half the country now having some sort of permitless carry standard. But the reciprocity problem remains. Unlike a driver's license, many concealed carry permits are not valid in other states. For example, many anti-gun states, like New York and California, refuse to recognize carry permits from any other state whatsoever. On top of that, it was only recently, and thanks to GOA lawsuits, that New York and California would even issue a non-resident permit at all. That meant for gun owners planning on traveling, carrying a firearm to the wrong state with the wrong permit could result in an arrest. Why would it be that states can recognize a driver's license from anywhere in the country, but not a concealed carry permit? Talk about a second-class right. Well, thanks to H.R. 38, all that nonsense could be in the past. And with the stated support of the Trump administration, concealed carry reciprocity looks like it's on the horizon. Of course, with this exciting potential for gun owners, the billionaire-funded gun control lobby is out in full force, doing everything they possibly can to dissuade members of Congress from voting to restore the Second Amendment rights of their constituents.
In a sea of tourists, imagine not knowing who among us is carrying a hidden loaded gun in public with no questions asked. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Over 200 Republicans in Congress want to make this nightmare a reality. Under CCM, what's good for a rural state like Montana becomes the law of the land here in New York City, including when a Montana rancher decides to conceal carry on his vacation here. What could go wrong? A concealed carry mandate would make us all less safe. It's a dream for gun extremists and a nightmare for public safety.
But it wasn't only the usual suspects, like Giffords, coming out against H.R. 38. On November 18th, the National Fraternal Order of Police, or FOP, and the International Association of Chief of Police issued a joint statement urging Congress to reject H.R. 38 because of gun owner protections in the bill itself. In a short 3-page letter, they managed to illustrate how hypocritical, elitist, and in some cases, flat out wrong they were about concealed carry reciprocity. So in response, we released our own letter to Congress, countering their claims. Let's break it down. First off, we pointed out that in our fights at the state level to make constitutional carry a reality in 29 states, we've dealt with law enforcement groups claiming the exact same concerns as the Fraternal Order of Police are now stating. And in every single one of those states, permitless concealed carry did not make the states any more dangerous. On top of that, it should be known that the Fraternal Order of Police does not represent all law enforcement's belief on concealed carry. A nationwide survey of chiefs of police and sheriffs showed they overwhelmingly supported the Second Amendment's right to carry. And in a survey of 14,000 rank-and-file police officers, a majority of them believed that the most effective way to stop mass murderers was armed citizens. Next, we addressed the FOP's claim that H.R. 38 would strip states of their ability to set and enforce their own standards for concealed carry. Well, the reality is, states do not have the right to infringe on the Second Amendment when their standards are unconstitutional, like banning guns, magazine sizes, and even types of ammunition. H.R. 38 restores the right to carry firearms nationwide, without having to follow any of the arbitrary and restrictive laws that anti-gun states use to infringe on the Second Amendment. But here's the funny thing. FOP and their president, Patrick Yos, are perfectly happy to infringe and strip states of their gun control standards, but only when it comes to law enforcement. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee earlier this year, President Yos endorsed and praised the Leosa Reform Act for allowing law enforcement officers to no longer have to comply with anti-gun state limits on types of magazines or firearms, saying it removed conflict and confusion. Sure sounds like some rules for thee but not for me situation, huh? But it doesn't just stop there. The Leosa Reform Act would allow carry in federal buildings. This is going above and beyond what even H.R. 38 allows, but obviously, citizens concealed carry is the true issue here. FOP also claims that H.R. 38 would prohibit law enforcement officers from making any arrests or detaining a suspect for any violation of state or local laws pertaining to the possession, transportation, or carriage of a firearm. And he would even prevent them from securing a firearm from a person while investigating other criminal activity unrelated to the firearm. Both of these claims are wrong. For the first one, nothing stops police from making lawful arrests of criminals or prohibited persons who are carrying a firearm illegally, or enforcing other local firearm laws that are not related to concealed carry reciprocity. And the second point is also flat out incorrect. H.R. 38 only prevents officers from arresting or detaining a concealed carrier for the lawful possession, transportation, or carrying of a firearm. Nothing prevents an officer from detaining a person who is concealed carrying while the officer is investigating a separate crime. In FOP's example of an impaired driver, the police could still investigate and make a lawful arrest of a person if they were driving under the influence. FOP's next claim is that H.R. 38 would override the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act. This is also blatantly false. There's no language in the bill that would prevent law enforcement from arresting a person doing something illegal with a firearm in a school zone. On top of that, federal law already prohibits out-of-state permit holders from the exemption that allows carry in a school zone. H.R. 38 clearly states that this section shall not be construed or supersede or limit the laws of any state that prohibits or restricts the possession of a firearm at any state or local government property, installation, building, or base. But you know what does make a change to the Gun-Free School Zones Act? If you guessed the Leosa Reform Act again, you'd be right. Next, FOP suggests that H.R. 38 will make their jobs harder by complaining about their inability to confirm out-of-state licenses. Which is funny, because they check out-of-state driver's licenses almost 1 million times a day. And this isn't some nationwide problem we're hearing about in the 39 states that have some form of concealed carry reciprocity agreements. FOP also suggested that H.R. 38 will have a negative impact on officer safety. They claim that in 2024, 20 police officers were shot and killed while responding to disturbance calls or making traffic stops, and that these were the two most likely scenarios for when an officer would encounter an armed civilian. But this is apples to oranges. In these 20 cases, were all the armed citizens lawfully carrying a firearm? Were they all out-of-state residents? Were they all citizens concealed carrying? Unless FOP is claiming all of these factors align in every single situation in which an officer was killed in the line of duty, then there's zero reason that this should be considered at all. And in fact, the case is often the opposite, where concealed carriers save law enforcement lives. Take, for example, Cody Dieter of Whatcom County, Washington, who stepped in to assist deputies Jason Thompson and Ryan Rathburn after both were shot responding to a neighborhood dispute. Dieter engaged the attacker of the deputies and then dragged the first officer to cover until backup arrived. In Youngtown, Arizona, State Trooper Ed Anderson was struck by a bullet on Interstate 10 at 4:30 a.m. He was then charged and pinned down by the perpetrator, who attempted to take his gun. He was saved by Thomas Soxall, a good Samaritan who pulled over to assist by shooting Trooper Anderson's attacker. Trooper Anderson would have had no way to call for backup fighting with the man, and he states that, while the encounter only lasted minutes, he probably wouldn't be here if not for him. Deputy Bardez of Fort Myers, Florida, was attacked by a man on Interstate 75 when a concealed weapons permit holder pulled over and assisted the deputy by shooting the assailant. Sheriff Scott of Fort Myers publicly praised the anonymous individual for saving the deputy's life. For police officers working in large jurisdictions such as rural areas, highways, or large counties, police backup can be miles and minutes away, but armed private citizens can be much nearer. Another important thing to be considered is that there are an estimated over 1.6 million defensive gun uses every year, with 65% of those interactions being with a handgun. In no reality could police officers respond to even a fraction of those cases, much less in time to save a life. A perfect example of this would be Eli Dickens, who acted quickly and took down a mass murder at a mall in Indiana. The local police chief, James Ison, said he saved lives by taking action within 2 minutes. You can't carry a police officer in your back pocket, so the ability to respond to evil in a fraction of the time helps reduce violent crime and saves lives. And finally, the FOP opposes HR 38 because it cancels any qualified immunity for the officer, since qualified immunity does not protect officers if they clearly violate established statutory or constitutional rights, putting officers in very real legal peril. Our response? Good. Anyone depriving a person of the Second Amendment's clearly established constitutional right should be met with very real legal peril. This exemption for protecting gun owners doesn't punish officers, but instead it protects us against overzealous anti-gun states and their blanket immunities to infringe on citizens' rights. Like how people lawfully traveling between states are arrested in airports for having firearms in checked bags, whether because they missed a flight or declared the firearm at the counter. So to sum it all up, FOP is wrong about HR 38 negatively impacting officer safety. They're wrong about this attacking qualified immunity, and they're wrong about this impacting officers' ability to arrest criminals. The Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act is about restoring and protecting the right to carry nationwide without fear of being harassed by anti-gun police or laws. That's why you should call your congressman at 202-224-3121 and tell them to bring HR 38 to the floor for a vote. Now thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with GOA's latest fights for your rights.